our last caller, Andy, right on topic for us. Andy wants to know, what's a great second date? So it's
Andy, are you
we're at
there?
this second date point again.
Yeah.
Andy, tell us a little more.
Well, yeah, like you've tapped into what the first callers have been talking about. You've got this wonderful rapport. It was like that home run first date. And what now I historically have these awesome first dates, like kayak dates, bike ride dates, fun things like that, chatting, get to know this person really well. And then, I suck at the second date. Where I don't go into the second date well, and then don't have as good of ideas for it, that kind of thing. And then also even too, creating that time. How long do you wait? Is there a wait time, or do you just go right into it, right on that first date? Hey, let's have a second date, or wait a couple of days. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Cool.
Wow. Well, I don't know. What I'm hearing is it just sounds like you're assuming that there are lots of rules about this, and that there's a calendar, a timeline on like what to do when and how to do it, and like what would be the best date. And it sounds like, I also heard a little bit from you that it sounds like you have to come up with something really super spectacular. And I just want to jump back to what we've all been talking about a little bit is, creating it for yourself and having, I think, a level of intention about what you want to get out of it, but not necessarily having to perform to get something miraculous or, crazy fireworks. We see, I don't know, I'm just thinking about, romantic movies. You see that there are these grand gestures and everything works out perfectly, or if it's, it's romantically, just mistaken, and there's some kind of level of expectation that I don't think exists in reality about how what the formula is for how to, I don't know, make something good. I'm doing air quotes. I know that you can't see me, but what that really is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where I struggle with the second date, is because I go into it with this formula, and of course it's not going to work because this isn't a movie, not scripted.
She doesn't know what she's supposed to say. Doesn't she know that she's supposed to laugh here and swoon? And
Where is your team of writers? I think there are actually two parts. There's agreement on the idea that there should be a second date, and then there's the implementation of the second date.
Yeah.
So I think some of the easiest, smoothest first date into second date processes I've been involved in. Oh my God, I sound so formal and like I make it complicated, which I do sometimes. But they were times when it just sort of smoothly worked into the first date, into the conversation. He would drop, "Oh, have you ever been to the map room? Would you like to do that?" And by the end of the first conversation, there were 3 or 4 ideas on the table for things we might enjoy doing together, and it was sort of implied that we would like to do something together another time. And other times it's just been sort of suggested at the end, this was fun, I'd love to do this again sometime, even though you don't mean have coffee at Uncommon Ground next Sunday night again sometime. Do this again sometime is a pretty good stand-in for I'd like to see you.
Yeah.
So I like to leave the first date with a clear sense of we're doing this again or we're not.
Yeah.
It's harder when my sense of it is we're not.
Yeah. I'd say when my sense is, yes, I do want to see you again, I definitely want to leave knowing that. It provides me a lot of security, and I just appreciate the cutting out the games of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I do try and sort of set a standard on the date that I want to be open and honest and clear about what we want at any moment. So I hope that there's no guarantee, but I hope that at the end they will, know that I'm truthful if I say yes or no, that I'm not just saying yes and going to ignore them, and that they will do the same with me. But you do run the risk if you do it on the first date that you may get a polite yes that means no because somebody's afraid to reject you. That's always a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and I think it's just something to be aware of and to deal with.
Yeah, play sounds like it's in there, and you're gonna get hurt while playing.
Yeah.
playing this dating game. But I like the idea of doing it in the date because it happens like seamlessly, more with rapport and playfulness versus a calculated thing. So yeah, it's a great fit there.
I mean,
and then go.
No, keep going, Andy.
Well, yeah, I mean, and then you get that yes, and it feels genuine, and you're setting up that second date. Kind of, where do I go? It's like I said, I've had a really good first date. We've got some great questions out there. I went into it wanting to get this stuff, these deeper questions. Now where do I go? What's next? Kind of next steps, sort of thing. Kind of continuing where you were left off, or is there a whole new set of things to bring into it? Kind of ideas to kind of keep that second and then possibly even the third date more fruitful.
Yeah. Okay, here's a what not to do. Don't ask, what do you feel like doing?
Oh, yeah.
It's not polite, it's not helpful, it's not creative, it's nothing to me to be asked, what do you want to do? I generally tend to say, let's find a time that we can get together and we'll figure out the what once we know when it is. Because, you could spend all day figuring out what's available on a Thursday afternoon before knowing that I'm available. So I just sort of eliminate a bunch of obstacles and barriers by just saying, like, let's figure out when it is, and then we'll discuss amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's not that I expect the guy to come up with, like, the grand plan, but I do expect a guy to have some things he's interested in and loves to do and would like to invite me into.
Totally.
And having picked up on a cue that I've maybe given in the first date is a nice bonus, but it doesn't have to be. My reason for dating is to explore the world comprehensively and discover more of what I like. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a totally great welcome gift for you to just be like, hey, I'm interested in this thing. You want to join me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to go back to what Monica said right at the beginning, about this idea that you may have, that it's your job to come up with like the grand perfect date. I know you mentioned that you've been having some really fun and engaging first dates like bike riding, and I just want to put out there that, like, if you went bike riding for your first date, then maybe coffee and conversation for the second date would be a really nice thing. Like, mm-hmm. It's in this, we talk about, I've talked about liking active dates that are fun and we're doing something, but it's not that I expect every date to be that way, and that a first date like that might have me valuing, quiet conversation on a second date even more. So I definitely think there's something for you in noticing where you want to do it perfect and put on a really impressive show, and stepping back from it.
I'm just thinking, like, for me, from the woman's perspective, if you were to take me on this bike ride date, and then the next one's rock climbing, and then the next one's something crazier, and then, like, we're jumping out of a plane, just feels like holy crap, how am I gonna keep up with this? And like Rachel's saying, if we don't ever get a chance to sit down and talk, how am I ever gonna get to know if I like to talk to you? So I think that there's like the variety.
Yeah. Yeah, the requisite variety versus just extreme. Because I'm not able to maintain that either. If I'm continually coming up with these crazy things, I'm going to fall. So it goes both ways. So yeah, I'm liking what you're saying. It's more grounding because you have this great. I'm wowed on my first date. I really had a blast. We have this connection. There was a spark. Now we can ground that spark on that second date and then get to know these kind of great little, what do you want to do with your family? What is your work like? Things that might have gotten skipped on that first date because you're in exhilaration.
Yeah. And Andy, also, I'm imagining you coming up with these exciting dates, and the picture I have is of you really, really going for being your best and impressing her. And it's like, well, what about you being impressed? What about you getting to really evaluate, when we sit down in a coffee shop or wherever you do it and we have a conversation, does this woman meet my standards? Does this woman impress me? Because it's, it's not always your job.
Yeah,
It's both.
that's cool.
I think there's a false dichotomy we have running here, which is like the active date versus the coffee
Yeah,
shop.
Yeah.
Good,
Engagement
good
is
point.
engagement wherever
Yeah,
you are.
absolutely.
I think I've maybe talked about this on the air before, but one of my best get to know you dates was going to a hockey game.
Mhm.
It was my first one, but it got me experiencing how he was as a host, how he was as an angry driver in the parking lot, how he was with the national anthem, the side by side conversation. We got into some very deep territory, even though it was just, when the lights stop flashing and the music goes down in these like half-minute increments.
Yeah.
So like if you're willing to, if you're a person who engages, you will use any date to move the agenda along of figuring out how this person is
Yeah.
as a person in the world. And as much as I agree with what you said, Rachel, about it's about Andy or anyone on a date knowing what satisfies them, the other phrase that was in my head is like, you're the show, Andy. It's not the airplane jump or the bike ride or whatever. It's how
Yeah.
she feels engaging with you, the person. And so if you are putting yourself in situations that you love and to situations you're maybe comfortable in and you know how you operate in, situations that stretch yourself and are exciting because of it, it's like, I think that's all great, is to have you in as you said, requisite variety, but the maximum amount of life in a date is, I think, what we're going
Yeah,
for, whether you're
absolutely.
across the table or behind each other on a tandem bike or something like that. That's the key,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
which
great.
you're totally capable of.
And not handling how I'm with myself, and that's what's most important. I like that.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And the question is, where do you want to put yourself to bring out your best? And to bring out the best in that other person is it's a secondary concern on the date. You have a job to do of figuring out who they are, but your first job is to be with yourself and to show up fully. So, the situation
Totally.
in which you decide to do that should differ every time, but that should be the ideal, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.